Welcome back, everybody, to Developing the Leader Within podcast as we continue to celebrate Women's History Month. Today, I am with Sanyin Siang. Sanyin is an investor and advisor to tech founders, VCs, boards, sports industry executive, you name it. And she's bringing expertise in leadership growth and culture and team cohesion, as well as diverse network of influencers. She has been recognized by Thinkers 50, a group that I hold dear to my heart, as one of the world's most influential coach and mentors. Sanyin is also the founding executive director of Duke University's Coach K Leadership and Ethics Center at his Fuqua School of Business. Sanyin, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with me.
Oh, Enrique, thank you so much. And thank you for that generous introduction. And really, all your listeners need to know about me is my personal mission in life is to enable greatness in others. And those, the investor, educator, author, coach, those are just how that mission shows up in my world.
Absolutely. And folks, we're going to be talking about a very great topic today, which is leadership and your superpower. This is going to get personal for you. We're going to try to get this down the road. But before we get into the topic, Sanyin, tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, about me. And so I shared my personal mission in life. And it also shows up as a mother. So I'm a mom of three. And I care so much about unleashing everyone's potential, right? So whether that's in the CEOs whom I coach, or in the students who I mentor, everyone has untapped potential and everyone, we can all get better at what we do. So what we bring, I know what you have, it's enough, but we can always do more with that enough. And that's the space that I play in.
Now, I love that, Sanyin, and you wrote a book. Before we get into the topic, you wrote a book. It's called The Launch Book. I have it right here, folks. If you and it's a quite a small read. Let me tell you, this book talks about, and it says motivational stories to launch your idea, business, and next career. But it really deals with tapping into who you are, just like you said, to be able to go somewhere and launch. Right. So tell us a little about the book. What inspired you to write it?
Well, we write books not because we have answers, but because we are in search of answers to questions that we have. And so when I look at my life and I look at the patterns across high achievers, just everyone, we're all struggling with launching, which is really whether you're making a transition from one chapter to another, whether you are starting a new business. It's basically a launch is a change from the status quo. So we're all launching. And what I discovered is, say you're changing careers, then there's a lot of books that are out there that's telling about, okay, here's the type of resume you have to put together. Here are the things that you have to know. If you're launching a business, here's all the ways to think about strategy and business plan. But there are very few books out there that answer the questions that I had in my head, which is, how do we muster up the courage to move forward? How do we think through our mindset? And so the launch book is really about a book that those were the answers that I was gathering from all, whether someone is the CEO or a sports, an athlete or a military general. All these people who I love and admire and who are dear friends who are sharing their wisdom and insights with me, that book is a way to, are the answers for, all right, how do you get into that mindset? What's really required in how we look at the world? What do we need to believe in order to make those changes?
Absolutely. And I love the read, folks. I encourage you to get that book. I want to put the link of that book into the comments so that and the show notes so that you can be able to access that. Now, Siang, you talk about superpower, and this is something that I love. As a Marvel enthusiast, I love this superpower endeavor you're going on right now. So tell us, what is superpower?
Mm. So the connection between the launch book and superpowers, I realized that I have been working on superpowers my entire life, right? So while the launch book was, it starts off with you have to understand who you are, your origin story, what your beliefs are, what your values are. Superpowers is understanding what are the things that make you special. Those are the differentiating strengths that you bring to the table. And here's the thing: everyone everyone has at least one, if not many more superpowers. Superpowers are either innate strengths or they are instinctive strengths because you've had 20, 30 years of practice. So that now it's an instinct. But they give you different than traditional, just traditional strengths. They give you a sense of energy when you're applying them. They feel like very natural now. And more often than not, when I work across the top performers, I notice it's also one of our biggest blind spots. Because when you think about it, what makes you extraordinary to the rest of us? That's just our everyday normal. So you go about it thinking, well, I'll just do this. And why isn't everyone else doing it too? It's so easy. Well, what comes easily to you, you think, then must come easily to everyone else. But that's not the case, right? But we're not in the habit of telling each other what each other's superpowers are. And so we walk around with this huge blind spot of, oh gosh, this is what I do that's different. This is how and it's actually different than what I think my differentiating strengths are. And so the faster we understand and gain insight into our evolving superpowers, the better we're able to serve and make a difference to the team.
I love that because the other day I was mentioning, well, actually, I was commenting on uh, a live show that I was participating in, and the man had said, "Well, I have a lisp. How can I overcome?" And I said, and immediately I typed in, "That is your superpower," because it for some people find it that's their limitation, but no, that's what makes you different. And if
Yes.
you're still out there pushing and speaking and presenting with that, use it. And so I love the way you just presented that because it validated my encouragement for them.
Well, and Enrique, in the launch book, one of my favorite lines in there, that one of the favorite conclusions and insights I came upon is what makes you different is what makes you special. What makes you different is what makes you an asset, right? And so I love how you were rethinking. Most people, we fall into that comparison trap. How often do we go in and we say, oh, that person is such a remarkable speaker because they know how to put sentences together and they have this booming voice and they just sound so polished. And by the way, if I'm being honest, yeah, I think that when I'm listening to, others around me. But when you say, let's take that list, let's take what you have and let's rethink it. How can this be an asset? This isn't a deficit. This is an asset. It makes you more relatable. It makes what you say come off more, okay, it may not be as much polish. And there's a time and wonderful place for polish, right? We're not making comparisons here, but there's an authenticity that comes across. So I love that list example. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now, there's you in the launch book, you always start with you, right? You
Mhm.
start with you. And so what's the importance of knowing what your superpower is?
I think two things. There's many reasons why, but there's two things as a start. One, we all fall into the comparison trap, right? And in the comparison trap, we're wishing for what we don't have instead of saying, hey, this is what we do have, and this is what we need to double down on. So, understanding our superpowers is one that's important. And then, as a part of that, the context is also important. So, what's a superpower in one context? Maybe kryptonite. in another, but that's okay, right? Because now you can make the right analysis. Is this context, or is it me, or is it both? Right? Two, so one is avoiding the comparison trap. So it's that sense of confidence. And then two, I think not in terms of strength and weaknesses. I think in terms of superpowers and behavioral detractors. So when I'm coaching, now I'm thinking, all right, you have an ability to come in and quickly see the trends, but the behavioral detractor is that this person tends to talk over everyone. That gets in the way of that superpower really being an asset to the team. People might think about weakness as, oh, this person is big picture. They're not able to be in the details. Like if that's not behavioral, if not being in the details is a behavioral detractor, then let's look at it. If it's a weakness, let's look at the complementarity to that weakness. We don't have to be great at everything. We want actually to pull together teams that have that sense of diverse superpowers, right? And then the third thing is it gets us outside of ourselves. So as an example, I'll use the Sherlock Holmes, let's call it the Sherlock Holmes effect. Sherlock Holmes syndrome. That's a better way for it. So Sherlock Holmes is like always saying, why is everyone around me so stupid? Why is everyone so idiotic? This is so obvious. Like it's this. I'm looking at a person. Well, no, Sherlock. It's not that everyone around you is idiotic. It's just that what you have is extraordinary and everyone is normal. Or think about it. We've been at doing something for 30 years. So it just becomes second nature. That intern that's coming in, they're not incompetent. It's just that they don't have the 30 years of instinct and experience that you have. Being aware that this is different than normal also gives us a sense of grace in how we coach and mentor and develop those around us.
And as a leader, grace is so important, not only to apply to yourself, but to apply liberally with your teammates, because it really does help
Yes,
alleviate some pains. Now,
yes.
some leaders um, have a hard time identifying for themselves what their superpowers are. So, what are some ways that leaders can not only identify but tap into their superpower to help their teams?
I think this is one of the toughest, but also funnest ways pieces of data to get. So I can sit down and I can reflect all I want. Sometimes it may not help me arrive at those insights about my superpowers. We actually need others to help us see, right? That's why I do 360s in coaching. It's data. We have a hard time seeing ourselves clearly. And also it's not only ourselves, but also the context. And so we have to go and we seek out feedback all the time about, well, what is it that I could be doing better? Why aren't we also seeking out feedback on what is it that I'm doing that's different so I can replicate and keep on doing it? So as an example, I was told that I am really, really good at facilitation. I don't know what that means, right? So I started asking, okay, what is it about what I do that makes me really good at facilitation? And then I'm getting and talking to different people about it. And I could, I know we're always shy about it, we worry that we're fishing for compliments. But if you set it up as, hey, I really need to understand what behaviors I need to double down on, this insight can really help me. That's a way to frame up the conversation. So one person would say, well, Sanyin, you know how to connect the overall themes across like what 10 different people are saying. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that was different, but then I should be aware and do even better at that. Another person said, you have this memory, you remember what everyone is saying, and then you're listening for also what they are not saying. And therefore you can then connect what they're saying to what you're trying to accomplish. Like, I didn't realize, I thought everyone does that in a facility, because most of the time when I'm looking at other facilitators, I'm going, wow, the questions they ask are so good. And it's boom, 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 or X, Y, and Z. And in that case, I could easily miss out on what is it that I'm doing well, and doubling down on that. And then the third is people said you are able to inject emotion into ideas. Like, I don't know what that means. All right, well, but it's something to pull on a little bit to understand. So we're constantly on this journey of self discovery. But if we're able to understand how we work, then we can better be able to turn around, because this isn't about us, right? It's in the context of how can we be better in service to the organization, in service to the team, in service to each other. If we are able to have the courage to ask, what is it that we're doing well? Because that takes courage too. Then we're able to better understand the process and say, all right, I'm going to turn that around and help others around me also discover their superpowers, because they may not be aware of it.
Absolutely. And in this journey of self-discovery as leaders, there's there's a lot that is at stake. And so what is at stake if you don't discover and develop your superpower as a leader?
I think self awareness is one of the things that those in leadership positions have to constantly get better at, because when you're in a leadership position and there's that positional power, your expressions aren't your own anymore. Your words have 10 times more weight. Time with you is currency. So being able to understand yourself and how you show up and the impact of that on others is so key. So part of that is also understanding what are the levers you should be pulling on that can help the entire team just thrive and be better, right? It's this dynamism with the world around us, with our teammates, with our organizational mission and the goals we're trying to accomplish.
Now, that is one of the foundational things that help you folks. If you are not aware of your superpower, if you have not dived into trying to find out what your superpower is, your people may be at stake, right? Your development, your own personal development, but also how you use those things for the sake of your people. And I tell you that one of the things that I have noticed in my lifetime is that the more I become aware of myself
Mm.
and my capabilities, the more I am able to help others along their way. And so, Sanyan, thank you so much for sharing your insight around superpowers today. If someone wanted to get a hold of you, your coaching, your training, your courses, your book, how what's the easiest way for them to do so?
All right, there's three ways. First of all, thank you, Enrique, for having me on your podcast. I have launched my Superpowers newsletter. It's on Substack. So for everyone out there, go to leadershipplaybook.substack.com. And subscriptions are free, and it comes out 2 times a month. And it's insights and tools around not only discovering your own superpowers, but how you can apply superpowers to make the team be better, and how do you build super teams. So leadershipplaybook.substack.com. The second way is you can always find me on LinkedIn and reach out via message on LinkedIn. And then third is later on, I am launching my website, and it's just Sanyin Siang, SANYINSIANG.com. And that's how people can reach me for speaking, for coaching. But I want to democratize my content. And so the newsletter and LinkedIn are places where you can continuously get access to the type of answers that I'm getting around the questions that I'm asking.
Wonderful. Well, folks, I'm going to make sure that all those are part of the show notes and the video, so you'll be able to get a hold of Sanyan and all her resources. Please do subscribe to that, and I'll make sure to have that as part of it. And oh, by the way, make sure, and I'm going to put this link for the book in the show notes as well. Sanyin, thank you so much for sharing your morning with me, celebrating. Help me celebrate Women's History Month. What a joy to have professional women out there doing things like what you're doing. I really appreciate every one of you that is treading the way, setting blazes on their trail. Thank you so much. And folks, if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and let us know by leaving a comment on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, or wherever this show is presented. And we're always looking for new ideas and guests that we can add to our show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like me to feature on the podcast, I'd love to hear about it. And you can just email me at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.